Submission to God means that the desire to please God is stronger than the desire to satisfy ourselves. And that is the place where we need to live. We speak a lot about lust, and we automatically think about sex when we talk about lust. But there are a lot of things in life that we can lust after. And the danger in lust is that it is an uncontrolled desire. And when desire is not controlled, you will do things or you will do anything to get what you want. And that is what's ungodly. So there are things in life, it can be money, it can be a job, it can be a position. It's not wrong to desire those things. When you desire those things to the extent that you're willing to compromise your salvation, that you're willing to do something evil in order to achieve it, that's when it becomes wrong. And that's why we have to submit to the will of God. When we submit to God and when His will becomes our will, and when we can truly say, Lord, let your will be done, then we will follow God's way and God will bless us with the desires of our hearts. As always, I am so glad to have you here for the Sanctuary Sunday School. As you may have noticed, there's a lot of new things for 2019. So you're probably going to want to go ahead and subscribe as well as tap the bell. Also, look out for us in the YouTube community tab because that's where I'll be uploading and sharing a lot of information between videos because we have a lot more that we're working on to roll out for you. Now, you can probably hear it in my voice. I am sick, so continue to pray for me that I get all of my strength back. But we are going to move forward and get into this lesson today. This week's subject is submit to God. And we can find this text in the book of James. And James starts out talking about how people war and strive and fight against each other, trying to get things and things that we're lusting after. And he says, you're doing all of this and you're going through all of this trouble, causing all of these problems, and you still don't have what you want. And this is something that's so timely today because when you turn on the news, all you're seeing is fighting and war and people striving against each other for something. And not even just on the news, you can just see it in your home. You can see it at your job, even in church, people just fighting. And again, James is saying, it's not even worth it. You're doing all of this. You still have no peace. You have no contentment and you have no satisfaction. And then he says, all you had to do was ask God for it and see. And today, you hear these words, hustle and grind. I'm hustling, I'm grinding, I'm chasing paper, all of this stuff. And people are just pushing. And as soon as you get one thing, that's not enough. You got to have the next thing and you're going, pushing, and anybody getting your way, you knocking down people, you pulling people down, just trying to get what you want. And so James is saying that's not the way to do things. If you submit to the will of God, you can ask God for what you want. And then he said, and you even ask and you're not getting it because you're asking amiss. Asking amiss is asking for something that you don't need, but it's also asking for things for the wrong reason. Lord, bless me with a job so that I can provide for my family. That's a good thing. Lord, bless me with this job so I can go to church and brag because my sister over there don't have no job. That is not what we're supposed to do. And so he talked about you asking amiss and you're asking so you can consume it up on your lust. You're asking for stuff and God's not going to give it to you because he knows that you're not going to do the right thing with it when you get it. If you look at it, some people who are really blessed and really rich and how they do so much charity work and they give out stuff, sometimes God gives things to people who's going to do the right thing by him. And there's even people that you may know personally. You're not going to give them anything because you already know they're not going to do the right thing. And so this is what James is saying, that put God first, submit to the will of God, do what God tells you to do, and then you have the ability to go to God and ask him for whatever you want. And you don't have to be striving and fighting. And I say this all the time. It is never necessary for God to hurt one person to bless another when God is bigger than that. He is more powerful than that. So in as much as we are God's children, we should not do that to each other. It is not necessary for me to hurt my brother or my sister in order to get what I want. All I got to do is live right and ask God for it, and he will give it to me. And sometimes so much of the problem with what we're trying to do is your motive, is your intent. Thurgood Marshall has one of my favorite quotes. He says that my intent will be evident in the result. If everything that you're doing is failing and nothing is working and you striving and you pushing and you going and you grinding and it's not working, check your intent. Your intent. What is your purpose? What is your goal? What are you trying to do? And does that goal and that purpose align with the will of God? Because if it does not, it will not prosper, because God's will shall be done. See, once we realize that God is God and it has to be God's way or no way, then we can start getting somewhere. James says that friendship with the world is enmity against God. So when we put worldly pleasures above pleasing God, we position ourselves as an enemy to God. And that's why we're failing, because as an enemy of God, we're fighting him. So while I'm pushing and hustling and struggling to get what I want, I am positioning myself against God and fighting God. That is a battle that you absolutely cannot win. So we find ourselves struggling through life and pushing and striving and never actually finding satisfaction or contentment. But we want to love the Lord and we want to submit to God's will. And not only do we want to submit to God, we want to resist the devil. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. We had this lesson last week in Union Gospel Press when the devil was coming against Jesus and trying to tempt him. And on every temptation point, Jesus refuted him with the scripture. And the devil had to leave him alone. Jesus told him, "Get thee hence, get away from me." And the devil had to leave Jesus. Now, Jesus said when he left that we have the same power. We have the power to resist the devil, and he will have to leave you alone. But see, he's not going to go anywhere if you are submitting to worldly lust, because that puts you on the devil's team. You want to stay on the winning team, which is God's team. See, when you can resist the devil, then you're ready to be a part of God's team and you can work for the Lord because you have submitted to his will. And when you're on God's team, you have clean hands and a pure heart, and you're not double-minded, because sometimes the devil wants to keep us straddled the fence because he knows that if he can do that, that God is going to reject us anyway. So we have to be of a single mind and focus on God and completely submit to the will of God. And that's the only way that we will be able to please God.